34-lap races.
The light goes green, and who's getting the fire at the start? Coming through from the second row is Andrew Stroud. The New Zealander leads the World Championship round into the first turn. Robbie Phillips comes through from the second row to move up on the inside there. We've already got a retirement New Zealander. Robert Holden is out of the race on a warm-up lap, but alongside Phillips, of course, we've got the flying young Italian there, bike number 7, Fabrizio Pirovano.
This is no surprise at all. Pirovano has emerged as the very best starter in the championship, and on top of that, he loves the wet conditions. He won at Le Mans in similar conditions, and so it should be of no surprise to us to see Pirovano leading Phyllis around the infield hairpin.
Phyllis looks for the lineup on the inside there, out accelerates Pirovano. Kawasaki versus Yamaha, but the Italian comes back again, but Phyllis is having a look over his shoulder and certainly putting paid to this. Number 7 right up alongside Phyllis there, Pirovano. Back then to 37 we have is Tommy Douglas from Canada. That is Andy McGladdery from Great Britain trailing them around. But Phyllis is very much on wet ground here as he accelerates down the back straight, reaching speeds somewhere in the vicinity of 140 miles an hour, and into the very fast right-hand sweeper. Back to the straight, completing lap number 1. We're looking for Merkel. He's way back in about 7th or 8th position.
Phyllis was saying just a few minutes before the off that he would prefer it to be dry. Doesn't like the wet. Well, he's obviously destroying that theory at the moment. Gary Goodfellow there in 3rd position. Now, he was a winner at Japan in the pouring rain as well, having made a tyre stop. And so we've got Pirovano and Goodfellow, 2 wet weather specialists, right up there with the action.
Goodfellow's been talking about a wet race all weekend, and behind that big smile of his, I think that he was secretly hoping it was going to rain.
At this stage, Fred Merkel is in 7th position and Tardozzi, the championship leader, in 8th position. So there's a real battle going on midfield positions there for the actual championship chase. At this stage, though, Pirovano obviously leading the title chase by virtue of his 2nd position on the road.
Comes as no surprise to see, Merkel getting a little out of shape there, applying the brakes as they come into the sweeper, taking them into the back straight. He's picked himself up 1 position, but certainly the RC30 Honda getting a little out of shape there as Merkel was lining up the curve.
Phyllis, handsome lead at this stage. He's got quite a comfortable gap, which is a real advantage in these sort of conditions. Pirovano still 2nd and Goodfellow hanging in there in 3rd.
This really is quite a surprise to see Phyllis. He's done very, very well in the Superbike races that he's run this year, and he's no stranger to Manfield. Goodfellow still in there in 3rd, and there's Merkel coming through into 4th position. He's a man with a mission today. He needs those points so desperately as he comes in on the inside of McGladdery. This is 7. Pirovano from Italy on the Yamaha. Back to Gary Goodfellow from New Zealand. The American Merkel.
Already Merkel will have had a board to say that Pirovano is ahead of him, and this is obviously giving him the hurry up. And I would imagine that within a couple of laps we'll see him right up there at the head of the field. A good rider in the wet. Always looks to be out of control, but I can assure you that he thrives on throwing the machine about and controlling back wheel slides and whatever. Closing up now on Goodfellow, as we can see on camera, with Tommy Douglas there in 5th position.
There is Merkel lurking down on the Italian.
You can almost see the grin through Merkel's, and he's lifted his visor. He could have a problem here. Merkel's obviously got a misted visor, and that won't help his championship chances. He's riding with the air rushing onto his face now, and indeed the spray. You can see on camera the misting of the visor, so just how he copes with that will remain to be seen.
Certainly at these speeds and in these conditions, Merkel can't afford to have anything go wrong.
Championship update. Pirovano 92, Merkel 91, Tardozzi 90.5. What a build-up to the final leg in little over an hour's time. It's absolutely marvellously pitched. Merkel doesn't seem to be being worried by that visor problem, but it could have been a scare for him.
He's flicking it up and down, so perhaps in the long straightaways where he really needs it to keep the rain from his face, he's pulling the visor down, and on the slower turns he's giving it a flick up just to allow some air through there, but I'm sure that he's got a lot of other things on his mind and certainly did not predict the misting visor, but he's coming in on Pirovano. He's honing in closer, just picking his knee up there over the curbing.
Merkel's problem would tend to suggest that his race preparation may have gone a little wrong here. Modern-day riders, they normally put a bit of duct tape or some other device over their nostrils to divert the hot air out of the bottom of the helmet and not up onto the visor. Pirovano there, I saw wiping the front of his visor as well. They're all having problems, apart from Phyllis, who of course has the advantage of leading and not contending with spray.
Pirovano is now actually starting to close on Phyllis. The four of them now, there would not be 1 second covering the first four riders. It goes Phyllis, Kawasaki, Pirovano, Yamaha, Merkel, Honda, and Goodfellow, Honda.
This, of course, is what Superbike racing was designed for. We've had some fantastic races in the 8 previous countries. None better than this at this stage, I would suggest. Just look at that as they reach the end of the Concorde Straight. Pirovano trying everything he can to get past Phyllis. Merkel hanging in there despite a misting visor, and Gary Goodfellow in the knowledge that he could win in the rain in 4th position there.
Pirovano having a crack at Phyllis, moves up on the inside and takes him very, very close together. The Italian on the inside, the Australian Phyllis on the outside, and we have a new race leader, Fabrizio Pirovano of Italy, and there's Merkel. He's hounding in on Phyllis now. Pirovano starting to move away, and Gary Goodfellow's in on the chase as well. There's Merkel on the inside. He moves now up into 2nd position.
Absolutely brilliant stuff. The New Zealand fans are really fortunate here. They've got a fantastic grandstand finish, and the rain hasn't spoilt the action. Here we go into the replay as we see Pirovano showing his bravery here. He leaves his braking later into the end of the back straight, just goes through on the inside of Phyllis, hangs on. A nicely executed move, but probably a risky one in these sort of conditions.
And there's Merkel. Merkel has taken Pirovano, our 2nd new race leader, in the first heat of the final round of the World Superbike Championship. It's being led by the 3 times American Superbike champion, Freddie Merkel. Pirovano, 5 lengths back in 2nd position. Then we go back to the earlier race leader, Robbie Phillips of Australia, and Gary Goodfellow of New Zealand having a massive battle down there for 3rd and 4th position. And Goodfellow has taken Phyllis.
What a slide there from Pirovano, all sideways as they come onto the start-finish straight. Breathtaking stuff, and we're only 9 laps into the race. A long way to go yet, and they've got to keep upright. So, a little more than half a lap to go now for Merkel. He's through the Concorde Straight, onto the back straight. He'll be feeling very, very good at this stage. That's Terry Rymer. Pirovano still in 2nd place. Goodfellow right of his exhaust pipes as they come onto the back straight. And here's the leader, Merkel. Merkel, oh, how well he might punch the air. That's a fantastic first leg victory, and that puts him into the championship lead. There's no doubt about that. He's delighted with that. And here we are. Here's the battle for 2nd and 3rd. Pirovano holds the advantage, but what's Goodfellow going to do? No, Pirovano's got it. Pirovano's got it. And here's the championship update after that fantastic first leg. Merkel, 93.5 points. Pirovano holds 2nd on 92, Tardozzi 91, and Mertens 82. And just look at Merkel, stood up on the foot pegs. Brilliant scenes here.
Gonna do it again in the 2nd one. Got to get this World Championship over with so I can eat and sleep like a normal person.
You think about what is it, 3.5 points enough in the lead for the 2nd race?
Oh, I'm gonna go out and win the 2nd one as well. I'm not riding that hard. I don't know what these guys' problem is. I decided to sit back in the first part of the race and see what they're going to do. I had a very bad problem. I couldn't see which I'm going to cure for the 2nd one, which will enable me to go a little faster. It worked out good.
So Merkel, enjoying his win, went on to celebrate in usual style.
I'll tell you what, I think I'm more nervous now than I was at the start of the first one. I'm so close to finishing this World Championship. But I had a long talk with my best friend last night, my father. He said, Fred, kick your ass. And that's what I'm here doing. God bless. I'll see you in the 2nd one.
And with just one 34-lap race remaining, this is the exciting position. 2 points separate all 3 world title candidates.
This is David Tardozzi, the man who's in with a chance for the World Championship here at Mansfield today. On the first of the warm-up laps, he has crashed the motor in the S's.
Absolutely sensational stuff. Tardozzi has scaled the trackside barrier and walked back to the pit lane, and as you can see from the damage to the bike, his race is over. And it could have, obviously it's down to a wrong choice of tyres. The first real hard test for those tyres, and they were intermediate tyres, and he went down. What a sensational start to the concluding leg of the World Superbike Championship.
Already Merkel, 2.06 seconds out in front. Robbie Phillips, the man that led the first heat for a number of laps, is in there in third position. So far, Phillips finished fourth. He's certainly made a name for himself in the World Superbike Championship this year, along with fellow countryman Malcolm Campbell.
See quite visibly there, Brian, the track is drying out. It's wet and dry, and Merkel will have to look for the puddles later in this race to keep that rubber compound as cool as possible.
With the corners veering at the degree angles that they have between 4 and 9 degrees, Mansfield will dry out rather quickly, with the exception of the straights, which for some reason seem to take a little longer to dry out. Pirovano's Yamaha twitching under acceleration coming out of the S's as he approaches the hairpin. There's Merkel in front of him.
What we're seeing here may well be a false situation if the track does dry out too dramatically. This early advantage could be very quickly eroded by the boys carrying slick and intermediate tyres. So we'll have to keep tabs on the situation as the laps go down.
Pirovano entering the back straight. You notice once again that unusual style. It's a semi-lay-down sit-up style. Doesn't seem to ever really tuck his head down behind the windscreen. Of course, the reason they're sitting up under brakes is to use the body as an air brake system. Pirovano very smooth through there this time, but Merkel's gone.
The positions as they stand at the moment make it quite easy to keep tabs on this World Championship outcome. We were rather worried about the permutations before the second leg got underway, but if Merkel and Pirovano stay 1 and 2, obviously Merkel takes the title. If they're reversed, we have a tie situation, and then we have to start looking back through the results to see who has the best backup statistics. Merkel, on his wet tyres, pulled further and further away until he was all of 19 seconds ahead of Fabrizio Pirovano. That was the difference between the two potential world champions. Then Pirovano took an extraordinary gamble. Let's keep the camera there. Look, they haven't got the pneumatic devices which enable the top works teams to make very quick tyre changes. This is suicidal. They're not going to get back in the race. It would have been better to have hung in there and tried to get some more points, but this is taking far too long. It'll be a lap down at least when Merkel flashes through again, and you really can't use fingers to put nuts and bolts back on when you're after a World Championship title. Pirovano was now 1 minute and 20 seconds behind Merkel in 9th place and could only win the championship if Merkel couldn't finish. But Merkel's tyres were wearing badly, and on lap 29 the Australian Campbell and Belgian Mertens had caught him. Merkel just had to stay on to win the title.
Started down there with the checkered flag, and it's going to be an elated Stefan Mertens that takes the final round of the World Superbike Championship here at Mansfield, ahead of number 3, Malcolm Campbell from Australia.
There's Merkel.
There is
5th position. Merkel finishes in 5th position, and he knows that's enough. He's got the first World Championship in the bag. It's not the way he would have liked to have done it, but they all count. So there's Merkel taking his somewhat subdued salute as he goes around the Mansfield circuit.
Fabrizio coming for a tyre change and then crashed.
He crashed?
Yeah.
Where's David?
They crashed on the warm-up lap.
They crashed on a warm-up lap. Why the hell didn't you tell me that? Jesus!
I didn't know anything. All I knew was it was running at a wet racetrack and running out of tire awful fast. We gambled. We started with wet tires. The boys weren't too sure, and I said, look, the only way I think we're going to be able to do this, because we don't have enough warm-up laps to break in some fronts, even intermediates. We got to go with the wets, and we got to get a good start, and we got to just haul. We got to get away from them.
So a champagne shower brings the first ever World Superbike Championship to a close. America takes the first title, and Merkel will make a fine ambassador when the globetrotting begins again. New Zealand will always remember this historic day, the day Merkel took the biggest gamble of his life and got away with it. Crowds around the world, and even the Italians, can't wait for next year's action to begin.
So Fred Merkel